4 laundromats, 1.8 million a year combined. No app, no brand, no social media following. Just washing machines and unremarkable strip malls doing the same thing they've done since the 1880s. This is one of the oldest, least exciting business models in America. And it might also be one of the most underrated. Here's the math behind why laundromats quietly make some owners rich. So who runs this business we'll be looking at this time? Dave Menz didn't set out to become the laundromat millionaire. That's just what people started calling him once the numbers got hard to ignore. He owns 4 laundromats. 4, not 40. 4 locations in unremarkable spots doing what laundromats have always done. Giving people a place to wash clothes they can't wash at home. And combined, those 4 locations bring in $1.8 million a year. Here's what makes that number worth pausing on. Laundromats are one of the oldest business models in the country. The first one opened in 1887. These machines have gotten more efficient, sure, but the basic concept hasn't changed in over a century. You walk in, you put your clothes in a machine, you pay, you wait, you leave. There's no app. There's no subscription model, no influencer marketing. The customer base is, in a lot of ways, people who genuinely need this. Renters without in-unit laundry, people without a space for a washer and a dryer at home. It's not a luxury, it's a utility. And that's exactly why it's interesting, because while everyone else is chasing the next trend, laundromats sit there, unglamorous, unchanging, and quietly profitable. And people under 40 rarely ever consider owning one. So now the turning point. How does a business this simple turn into a $1.8 million a year endeavor? It comes down to a few things that aren't obvious until you look closely. Decision number 1. Dave understood that a laundromat isn't really selling laundry, it's selling square footage and uptime. Think about what a laundromat actually is structurally. It's a fixed amount of space filled with machines that are either running, making money, or sitting idle, making nothing. Every single hour those machines aren't running is revenue that's gone forever. You can't make it up tomorrow. There's no inventory to sell later. The product is time and capacity. And once that hour passes, it's gone. This sounds obvious, but most laundromat owners don't actually think this way. They think of it as, I own some washing machines. Dave thinks of it as, I own a fixed number of machine hours per day, and my entire job is making sure as many of those hours get sold as possible. That mental shift from I sell wash cycles to I sell capacity changes everything about how you price, how you staff, and where you locate. Decision number 2. He went after locations with built-in structural demand, not foot traffic he had to create. A coffee shop has to convince you that you want coffee from them specifically. A laundromat doesn't have to convince anyone of anything. If you don't have a washer and dryer at home, you need a laundromat. Full stop. There's no marketing campaign required to create the need. That need already exists. So the real skill isn't generating demand. It's finding where that built-in demand already lives and isn't being served well. Areas with a high concentration of renters, older apartment buildings without in-unit laundry, lower income neighborhoods where buying a washer and dryer outright isn't realistic. This is part of the why the industry is described as having a non-cyclical demand. People need clean clothes in a recession just as much as they do in a boom. The demand doesn't disappear when the economy gets tough. If anything, it can get stronger because fewer people are buying their own appliances during a downturn. Decision number 3. He owns multiple locations instead of trying to make one location perfect. This is the same instinct as the food truck story. Horizontal scaling instead of vertical. A single incredible laundromat is still capped by its physical size. There's a maximum number of machines that can fit in the space and a maximum number of hours in a day that they can run. 4 good to decent laundromats, each one profitable on its own, will produce more combined cash flow and far more stability than one perfect laundromat that's betting everything on a single location, a single lease, a single landlord relationship. If one location has a bad month, a machine breaks down, a competitor opens nearby, or the lease gets renegotiated, it's 1/4 of the business, not the whole thing. Now, let's actually break down the numbers, because this is where laundromats stop sounding boring and start sounding like a genuinely smart business model. A moderately sized laundromat, somewhere in the range of 20 to 30 machines, typically generates somewhere between $100,000 and $300,000 a year in gross revenue. A larger, well-positioned location, with 40 to 60 machines in a dense rental area can push past $600,000 and even up towards $1 million annually. Now the costs. Water, sewer, gas, and electric. Running all those machines isn't free, and they typically eat up somewhere between 20% and 30% of revenue. Rent is the next big chunk, and depending on the lease and location, that's a significant variable. Now, labor is where the model gets pretty interesting. An unattended laundromat, one that just runs with minimal staff, has very low payroll costs. An attended laundromat, with someone on site for wash and fold service or customer help, runs higher labor costs, typically 15% to 20% of revenue. After everything, utilities, rent, labor, maintenance, net profit margins in a well-run laundromat typically land somewhere between 20% and 35%. Some operators with efficient equipment and tight cost management push that as high as 50%. Now let's apply that to Dave's actual numbers. 4 laundromats, $1.8 million a year combined revenue. Even at a conservative margin around 30%, that's over $500,000 a year in profit across 4 locations that individually are each running at a scale well within the range we just described. But here's the part that should really stand out. Compare this to the restaurant math we covered in the food truck story. Restaurants typically net 3 to 9% profit after dealing with food costs, labor, rent, and a brutal failure rate. Laundromats, even on the conservative end, are netting 20 to 35%, on the high end up to 50%, with their dramatically lower staffing requirements and a customer base that needs the service regardless of the economy. And the buy-in cost, while not small, laundromats can run anywhere from $500,000 for a small operation to well over $1 million for a large modern facility. Gets you into a business that actually has one of the highest survival rates of any small business category. The vast majority of laundromats that open are still operating 5 years later. That's roughly 4 times the survival rate of the average business. Low failure rate, high margins, built-in demand that doesn't go away in a downturn. It's not exciting, but on paper, it's one of the better risk-adjusted businesses you can get into. All right, so as usual, let's get into the key lessons. What's the takeaway here, especially if you're not about to go buy a laundromat tomorrow? The first lesson, as with the last one, boring businesses survive because nobody's trying to disrupt them. Laundromats haven't fundamentally changed in over 100 years, and that's not a weakness, it's a moat. There's no venture capital-backed startup trying to revolutionize coin laundry. No flashy competitor burning cash to steal market share. That lack of excitement is the protection. When you're evaluating any business idea, ask, is this something smart, aggressive, well-funded people are actively trying to disrupt? If the answer is no, that absence of competition might be the opportunity. Lesson 2. Find demand that already exists. Don't try to manufacture it. The laundromat doesn't need to convince anyone they need to clean clothes. The need already exists, fully formed before the business even opens its doors. Compare that to almost any product that requires educating the market or building awareness. That's an uphill battle from day one. A business already built around demand that's already there. Already proven, already happening. That business starts the race already ahead. Multiple steady locations beat a spectacular one, is lesson number 3. This echoes back to the food truck story, but it's worth repeating because it shows up everywhere. Diversification isn't just a finance concept for stock portfolios. It applies to physical businesses too. 4 laundromats, each individually solid, create a business that can absorb a bad month at any single location, without the whole thing being at risk. One quote-unquote perfect location creates a business with one single point of failure. $1.8 million a year. 4 laundromats, a business model that hasn't fundamentally changed since 1887. It's the least exciting thing you'll watch all day, and that might be exactly why it works. If you want more breakdowns of businesses that quietly make real money while everyone's looking elsewhere, hit subscribe. Next time we're covering a business model that took something everyone already throws away and turned it into a recurring revenue machine that most people never even think to look for.